Welcome to the Homeschool Together podcast. Where one working mom and a stay-at-home dad help you navigate the nuts and bolts of the growing and dynamic world of homeschooling.
With a focus on early learners, like me.
All the ins and outs of building and maintaining your homeschool life.
Homeschool.
Find out tips and tricks to make things like this easier.
I'm reading.
And ultimately, enjoy educating your kids. And what's that last thing?
Have fun together. Did I do good, Daddy?
Yeah, you did, sweetie. Good job. Welcome back to Homeschool Together. Thank you for joining us. We're doing a part 2 episode today of personal responsibility, kind of getting into the weeds of things. But before we start, head down into the show notes below and, I don't know, subscribe to something, whether it's a Facebook page, our Facebook group, or our YouTube channel. You can see all the cool things we're doing on over there. We're trekking the globe now and going in around the world again, but in kind of a little bit of a different flavor. I think we put out our planned video. So if you haven't had a chance and you're thinking about doing something like that with your kiddos, head on over to YouTube, and that video, I believe, will be out. And you will be able to enjoy and see what we're doing for the next year or so with our 2 little kiddos as we're merging our tracks. So today we're going to be going into, we talked a lot about personal responsibility last week, doing the hard work and getting better at, building young adults and children, going from children to young adults. Today we're going to be a little bit more, in the weeds and talking about examples and ideas of how to implement those type of methods in your homeschool.
Personal responsibility sounds really great, but we all go, okay, so how am I supposed to actually do that?
Yeah, right.
So today's all about giving lots of ideas. These are some things that we've used in our home, and we did a bit of research about things that have worked for other folks. So we're going to kind of go through a list of just the ways that using some aids, whether it be a checklist or a Kanban or, a written schedule or routine, it could be Google Calendar, whatever aid we decide to use and how that's going to help us to foster personal responsibility for our kiddos and hopefully take some work off of our shoulders eventually. That's definitely the hope. That's where we're not there yet. Although I have not emptied the dishwasher myself in quite a while. So some things are getting through. But we hope that this will give some good ideas to get your creative juices thinking about how you can help your kids start in their own journey towards personal responsibility.
And I like how you said the aids, because a lot of times people will, just like homeschooling, when we are looking at our kids, a lot of times, our kids need different things. This kid needs this thing, this kid needs this thing, whatever that might be. Whatever works best in your homeschool and your family can be different. You may be a digital aid. You may have a giant touchscreen or something, or maybe you're something like a magnet family, or you like to write stuff in a journal by hand. Whatever works best for you. There's a lot of different ways. We're going to talk about a couple of them, and maybe you can, as we talk about kind of these factors that you may want to incorporate into whatever system you end up putting in place with your kids. You want to make sure that these are showing up in your whatever system you're doing, making sure that they hit these main points.
Right. So what you talked about, all the different ways there. I think if you think about yourself, your friends, your family, everyone has kind of a different system that works for them.
Yep,
so one of the big pieces of this is there's a lot of trial and error that you have to use, because just because I run really well on a checklist, you love a good Kanban.
Oh, yeah.
Our daughters may want something digital. They may not like that. So our youngest might want magnets. So just know that if you try one of these and it doesn't work, and we've tried a few and we've tweaked some things, and we still, to be perfectly honest, have not found like
the perfect
thing, for ourselves. So just know that there's a lot of trial and error as you and your kid discovers what works best for them, like what helps them remember and syncs best with them. Just know that this is not anything to laminate. I guess is what I would say when we did some checklists for our kids. I just like slipped them into a page protector because I knew this is not something to waste lamination on because this is going to change. So just walk into it with that right mindset, I think, and it'll be better.
Yeah, it's just version 1.0. And it's
of many versions.
Of many versions. So the first, whatever system you choose to help drive home this idea of personal responsibility through checklists, routines, whatever you end up choosing, the first one is we want to make sure that it has provides clear expectations, right? So these would be your defined tasks, consistent standards. So if you're thinking about like, what do you have to do and how do you know you've done it? And it's really kind of what you're thinking about.
What's that definition of done?
What is the definition of done? What is the tasking that I have to do and how do I know when I'm done?
So a great example of this is the dishwasher I talked about.
Yeah.
Our daughter doesn't load the dishwasher yet, but she unloads it. And personally for me, and I don't know if any other moms or dads out there feel this way, but I am so good with like loading dirty dishes or loading dirty laundry. Because it gives me the sense of like, oh, I cleaned up, right? Everything looks clean and nice. I absolutely hate unloading or folding because that's not satisfying. I took something that was very safely nestled in a place out of sight and out of mind, and I have now dumped it all over my bed. Or in the case of the dishwasher, we're unloading it all over the countertops. So I took something that I absolutely hate that our daughter can definitely do.
Yep.
And we thought this is a great task for her. She's 8. She can definitely unload the dishwasher.
She can reach most of the cabinets in our kitchen. There's a few things that she just she knows where they go and she'll just leave them there and I'll put them away for her. But yeah.
So we started without any knives or anything. We have those on like a third rack at the very, very top of our dishwasher. So we were able to keep all the knives up there and say, just unload everything else when she was 7. Now she unloads everything nice and safely. But the way that we provided these expectations was we just did a trial run. We ran through it and talked with her about what we expected. One of the things which, I don't think people think about, especially with kids, is to wash your hands before you unload the dishwasher. So I'm not taking dirty hands on clean dishes. So we taught her, this is first you're going to wash your hands, and then this is how you're going to unload each piece, and this is what we expect of you. So now when she unloads the dishwasher, she knows exactly what to do. Yep. And we've expanded it. Now her younger sister has to unload the kids' plates and bowls.
Because that's in a drawer right next to the dishwasher.
And she can reach it. She's not allowed to touch anything else in the dishwasher for safety. But her older sister was able to teach her how to do that because we taught her. So we really clearly set the expectations for that. Well,
and with the standards, I think as parents, we wanted to, at least for me, like I'm somebody who drives towards efficiency. And I'm like, I want to do everything the most efficient way. And sometimes you get a little bit of like that anxious behavior when somebody's probably not doing it the most efficient way. I have to kind of let go of that and just say, let my daughter choose her path as long as she does it and does it in the right way. So that kind of standards idea is a little challenging. And I notice when she does the dishes, just as a good example, she loves to just take out all common items and just stack them on top of the counter.
All bowls.
All bowls go together. All this stuff goes together. All these plates go together. And then she puts them away. And I'm like, that's probably not how I would do it, but it's okay. I'm going to let her kind of discover her own path. So just be careful with your standards that you're making sure you're giving them a little bit of time to kind of cultivate their own, path and methodology and feel like they're doing it the way they want to do it. Unless you see something that's unsafe, obviously, but giving them the opportunity to kind of like forge their own way, I think is something that I've had to kind of go, okay, just step back. It's all right. It's getting done. As long as it's getting done.
Exactly. And we told her that, our expectations are that the things that are on, X level shelf and above, that she just sets them on the counter below where they go, rather than a big heap in the center of the island. She puts them near where they're going to be, so it's easy for us to put them away. Yep. And there's a few, anytime there's something that's specialty, she gets to leave it in the drying rack. And so she kind of knows the exceptions. This really helps us because every time she unloads it, invariably there's going to be some odd kitchen item that we have used that I did not cover. I did not cover the mandolin or whatever in our tutorial. And being able to give her kind of a catch-all helps to make sure that we don't have questions every time, because we have to answer questions every morning about how to unload the dishwasher. It loses its usefulness.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is for us, with respect to like a checklist or a Kanban board or something of that nature, this is something that she has to do every morning because we, as a family, we tend to run the dishwasher at the end of the night. And so it's in the morning, almost always, universally across the board, the green light is on. and it means it's time to empty it. So this is something we tend to not put onto like a board. It's just an expectation. Maybe when you finish, breakfast, you got to unload the dishwasher. Or if you come downstairs before or while daddy's making breakfast, you can unload the dishwasher. This is something that's more of one of those ingrained habit routines that we're kind of putting in. And it's not necessarily something that's like a check mark type of thing that we would put on, like some other items that we may do. But you may put it on your checklist. For me, it's like, this is your real chore. This is something that I don't even want to have to ask you or put something together. It's just something you do. Like the little one puts away all the shoes and socks. And that's just something she knows to do. She's young enough that I have to remind her to do that, and she does it. But there's that tasking that you just want to ingrain into your young one, because us as adults, nobody asks me to take out the trash. I see the trash, I give the 2 stomps, all men do, and then when it gets too packed, I then take it out. Right? Nobody's asking me to do it. I don't have to put a check mark or something. So those are the type of like evolution of habit that we're trying to get to her.
That's what we're trying to get.
And she's been doing this for so long that it's now starting to become like, there's been some times where like you don't even ask her and she just does it. And you're like, victory.
Right. Now we do have checklists for both of the kids. And the way that we did this was we actually put pictures on our 5-year-old's checklist and we put words on our 8-year-old's. And for our 8-year-old, we do have the word dishwasher on there because it is something to check off. She does know to do it, but I like putting it on the checklist for her because she gets that sense of accomplishment at the end where she goes, I check. And for our younger one, we have a picture of shoes, and she knows, and she's been, since she was 4, just turned 4, that has been her job, is to collect the shoes from around the entryway and put the shoes all in the shoe bin and take any dirty socks that have invariably been left all over the place and put them in the laundry hamper.
I don't know how multiple pairs of socks appear every day at the entryway. It's just like,
and some of them are wet, and I don't know how that happened either. But
it's summer, it doesn't rain. Why are they
anyway,
wet?
She's only 4, but we're like, hey, you can do this task. Yeah. So on both of their morning checklists, they have these 2 items that they both take care of.
Going, kind of into that, they do it themselves. We do want to encourage that kind of self-management, whether it's time management or task prioritization. Those are really tough skills to learn, where I'm doing a task and then I don't do it in a sufficient way, and it becomes a long task, and it becomes frustrating. Yeah. One of the things I always have to kind of remind my daughter now that she's like 8 or 9, hey, I need you to go do this thing, but please don't listen to your audiobook. Please don't get distracted. I'm starting to like prime her. I go, because I don't want you to just take too long with this. That's a thing that I've been kind of working with her on, because a lot of times she'll get into a task, and then that task will go 2 or 3x longer than it should, and then she'll get frustrated and upset, and then I've got to deal with that. So I'm trying to short circuit that and say, this is something that you need to do that is more in the line of like, we need to get this done. And so don't drag it out. And then you got this idea of prioritization. Well, what do you do first and what do you do next? Like, do I do my dishes? Then do I do these things or whatnot? Having that level of prioritization, especially when I'm like, okay, I need you to do this, this, and this. How are you going to accomplish those 3 things? And a lot of times I'll try to help her through that tasking. I think you should do this first, then do this, because I think this is a longer one, or this is a one that you could get distracted on. And if you get distracted here, we don't even finish this thing, then I don't get the other 2 things done. So I'm having to help her through that right now, where it's like you get multiple things. It's not just the one task, you get multiple tasks.
Well, I think it's important to have those discussions with them so that they can help. Ultimately, they're still making the decisions about what order they're doing things, but we're just giving them a little bit of guidance. This is an area where Kanban can work really well. So we have a little whiteboard for our daughter that we've been using this year that just says to do and done. So, there's no sense in the doing part because it's just short, but we have magnets on that and we reset them every morning. Yeah. So she knows that reading and math and basketball and these other things are on the schedule. So she can clearly see everything she has to do for the day. And these are the things that she has to do before she has time off, before she can go play and listen to audiobooks and go hang out with friends and whatever. She's got to do this.
And I've noticed these are great for autonomous tasks, things that they don't need you for, like violin, dance,
the things,
sports, whatever it might be.
You're right. Autonomous tasks are really perfect for this. And this is one of those things where she can see all the things that she has to do in the day. And she can start thinking about, I can see her like, what can I knock out right now? So we talk about it sometimes and she says, I got all these things. Like, well, when you wake up in the morning, if you want to knock out your reading, well, then that's already done and you don't have to wait till later. So I think that can help them see. But checklists can also be helpful here. One of the things we noticed about the Kanban is that it was a very long list of all the things that she needed to do.
But also included things that were not solo tasks as
Right.
well, like
So
math and reading and things of that nature.
we realized that didn't work awesome. So what we did instead, and we've been playing with, is a checklist. So it works a little bit like a Kanban in that there's things that you need to do, and the check is the done. Except we broke them into different sections of the day. So it was like, these are the morning things before we start homeschool for the day. These are the things that have to be done after school. And these are the things that have to be done before bed. And so that was a little bit easier and these are all autonomous things. And it was great because it helped her to kind of say like, oh, well, I only have 4 things to do in the morning before we start school. She could prioritize among those 4. When she had a list of like 10 things, it was really too hard for her to choose the most efficient path through those items.
I agree. That is I did see that type of challenge. So I would say limited to, as you had put it on your checklist, about 3 or 4 items. If you can limit the amount of work that is being asked to do in that process, I think you can increase the throughput on what you're going to have your young one doing. I always like the idea as well, kind of walking through my own day and saying, well, listen, I know this is hard for you and you're learning. Let me walk through what I do in the morning. I get up and I brush my teeth, make the bed, come down, take care of the dog, get you guys breakfast. Like I walk through all the things that I do every single morning for them. And I think when they start to see that, the parent doing this routine as well, and that it almost feels like, oh, dad does this. He's not just asking me to do this as a special thing. Like dad does this thing. Like I can see what he does on a daily basis. And I'll tell her, like, before I go to bed, I'm getting prepared for the next day. Like I'm getting the homeschool stuff. Like when you come downstairs and you see all the homeschool stuff pulled out and you see breakfast bowls and cereal stationed, essentially prepared, military style, it's like, and it's all just sitting there. I'm like, my day starts before I even go to bed. And so that's sort of my routine on the morning is actually when I go to bed. And so I'm walking her through that. I think that kind of that education and that almost empathy, showing her that I'm doing it as well. And I empathize with the struggle you're going through, but here's a good example of me doing the exact same thing.
Yeah. And so, using the visual aids we talked about. So there's Kanban, you could do checklists. You could also do a big routine on the wall. Yep. If you have younger kids and, you do kind of the same thing every day or on a couple of days when you're home and you're not off with your play dates and other things, and you just even put like, these are the expectations of the day. It was one of the things that we read in some early parenting books and things before we had kids, which really stuck with me in some videos we watched and things where they would say like, kids like a sense of routine. And so if you can just hang it on the wall even and say, this is our routine, this is what we're doing, then they come to expect it.
Did this person drive a blue car and was she British?
Potentially.
was she happen to be a nanny?
We were like 22. I remember us
we loved watching the Super Nanny show.
I was probably totally not correct now, but we were 22. It was a long time ago. It was a long time ago. But the thing that stuck with me about that show, one of the things that stuck with me was this idea of having a routine and then helping the kids to understand these are the expectations for the day. It's really comforting. And I know that with our kids, giving them the checklists, it's really helping them because they can kind of like see what's going to come and they don't cruise director us. What's happening next? What do we got to do next? Right. They know. So this is a great structured approach.
That goes into the kind of this third idea where you're doing organizational skills, where you're just showing this structured approach to your day and this visual reminders, as you kind of said, with the long, this big board where you kind of have your days broken out. I always kind of laughed that whenever we watched the Super Nanny show, they kind of down like the 15-30 minute blocks. I'm like, oh, I don't know about that one, but the idea of like that your day has a flow and that you have a rhythm and whatnot. And I know I have a challenge of that when I'm in the parent partnership and I'm homeschooling and I have sports. It can get very chaotic, and we know you at home listening, it's like my week is not the same day to day, right? I long for those days where every single day was wake up, morning basket, do homeschool, go to the park.
The
and
days have never been that way.
They've never.
I mean, we've never had a consistent day. So what we did was we really just decided to take the parts of our day that are consistent,
Yeah,
right? Everything before either starting homeschool or leaving for the parent partnership, it's always the same. It's always so our older daughter on her checklist, we just have this forever issue with getting her to brush her hair. she's like not a fan of it.
Which one?
Well, both of them, but she's not a fan of it. The older one, and she wants to grow her hair out. So we're like, okay, great. So we're just going to go ahead and add this right to the checklist. We have a problem with the younger one not wanting to get dressed. So it's like, okay, great. We add it to the checklist. So these are all things that even though the rest of our day could look totally different, these are always the same. We want you to get up. And our younger daughter's, hers is really funny. It's like, a picture of clothes, and then a picture of a tooth, and then a picture of a bed for to make her bed, and then a picture of a cereal bowl to eat breakfast. And so it's got this list. And then we took the end of the night, which is also always the same. Yeah. So the middle of the day, things can happen whenever. The practicing of violin and
going
the different
to the
things,
museums, and
whatever it is we're gonna do. But those other pieces have to fit in. The 20 minutes of reading that she's got to get in, that stuff can fit in wherever. But we know that the nighttime routine is the same too. So we want them to pick out their clothes for the next day because we have girls and there's a whole fashion thing going on here. And it is just way easier if we get them to pick out their clothes the night before, and then they've made that commitment so that in the morning we don't have to have this whole discussion about what's the weather going to be like. And they dress in shorts and it's snowing, and so we can just deal with that at night. It's great. We also have kids that fight about bathing. So It's great. You can just put that right on the checklist that, having a shower is part of your night. And some nights we say, well, you just had a shower last night, you're okay. But we can set the expectation.
Ariel, they don't bathe every night.
Not every day.
I'm sorry, you were at camp all day. You went to basketball practice. You swam in a pool. I think you need to take a shower.
I know.
I can't believe there was a debate that day.
Last week our 8-year-old had to take a shower every single day, and she thought it was a true injustice. We're like, you look at you. So we if you have a day that never looks the same, and we know what that's like, you can even just make routines or checklists around the parts of the day that do always look the same, and get something good out of the visual system.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of goes into the next idea the accountability, where you're talking about, this idea of you got to own the tasks, you got to track the progress. Like hardest thing to do is to make sure that I like how you split it into two checklists. So we're not having both girls' things polluted in the same area.
Oh, if they were on the same checklist, boy.
They would be arguing. They'd be like, that's not my task. That's not my task. Like, just like when I ask them to clean up the living room, they're like literally cleaning up the things they touched.
Yeah, I didn't touch it. It's not mine. It's sister's.
They're arguing about who played more with that one doll than the other. It's like, no, you played with it more than I did. You need to clean it up. We are to that level.
Tell us we're not the only ones. Parsing,
tasking, and prioritization now. But just tracking the progress, I think, is a big one. Being able to visually see that something is done. The satisfaction of doing that, I think, helps to drive things to the completion, right?
Yeah, exactly. And when we made these checklists too, we did this with their buy-in. So we made sure that when I was making these, I made these on Canva.
And these are grease marker, like dry erase.
Yeah, I just slipped them in sheet protectors and put dry erase markers with it because I knew that they were going to change, and they have already changed several times. We've gone through several revisions of these checklists.
3.1, version 3.1, and the patch is coming out soon.
But when we did this, I actually, had each girl come with me and say, these are the things that we're thinking you're going to be doing. Do you agree to that? Do you sign up to have ownership of this? And so we dealt with all of that right away, and they both felt like what we were asking was really fair. I think it's really nice to ask it in a time when, when you ask right now, hey, I need you to go and vacuum the living room or whatever it is, or I want you to go do your reading, you get a lot of, and they don't want to do it. I think it's nice to come at them at a different time when they're out. You're not asking them to do it right now. You're just saying, what's reasonable? These are the things that you need to do every day, or these are the things mommy and daddy also need help with. Where should we put these on the list? What's reasonable for you to do? And, even though our little one is only just now 5, there's plenty of things that she does. She's able to use we have like a a very small compact vacuum cleaner, and she's the one that gets crumbs all over the kitchen floor. So she's responsible for doing the vacuuming in the kitchen.
105% responsible for all the crumbs.
She is. So it's her responsibility to use this. It's a really lightweight little vacuum. She loves using it, and it's her responsibility to do it every afternoon.
And she undoes the cord, plugs it into the wall, does the vacuuming. Like, she's to that level. Yeah,
she does a great job of it. Before that, for about a year or so, she's great with her colors. So she's really good with colors. We made it her responsibility to sort all of the laundry. So she sorts our laundry, her sister's laundry, and her own into the different colored bins that I bought for the laundry room. It was a very cheap process to grab those, and each one's got something different, and it's just her job to go through and sort all the colors.
She kind of likes it.
She does, and it's helpful for me because what I was doing is I had to sort the colors, or I would wash like all of her clothes or all of our older daughter's clothes at one time. That would just mean that I had all of one thing to put away. Like if I wash an entire bin of the 5-year-old's clothes, you know how it is with little tiny clothes, guys, right? It takes forever to fold little tiny clothes. And so
and they're all inside out. Like the
every
washer
single one
flips
of them.
the pants and the shirts inside out.
Every one of them.
Every one of them.
So by putting, her laundry and doing a whole load of just her laundry, I'm folding for like an hour. But instead, because she has sorted all these things into colors from 3 different laundry bins, it means that when I get the laundry out, there's a pile of clothes there for the 8-year-old that I can just put in a basket and put in her room because she's responsible for folding her own laundry. Then I fold the 5-year-olds, and then there's a couple of things for us in there that are obviously big normal people clothes that don't take a long time.
Let's be honest, Ariel. We're starting to confuse your clothes with the big kids' clothes.
It's getting a little, she's getting really big. So I don't know how much longer that's going to work. But for the moment, I'm able to kind of spread the load a little bit because she's helping to sort the clothes from these locations. So even though she was only 4, she loved that. And that was her job. Between that and the shoes, this year we have now added the vacuuming. But those are her jobs, and she takes them seriously. And I think they take a lot of pride in owning those. So when you're making your checklist, or whatever the routine is, whatever you're going to ask your kids to do, chore chart or whatever, I think getting their buy-in is really important so that they don't feel like this is just being thrust upon them, that they had a say. And these are all things we have to do for the house. Which things do you think you could do? Or these are the things we need to get done for homeschool. Which things do you think you can do without my help?
Well, and I think you summarized the next point really well, which is kind of reducing that dependence on the parents, right?
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah, you've got their buy-in, you've got their feedback, you've instilled some self-reliance on this, and you've given them some independence on the tasking, and then they're free to do it. Now there's reminders, and we have the reminders, but the idea of that they're off doing it on their own, kind of from the original one where I talked about the dishwasher and how she has her own method. In this case, they're taking stuff off of your shoulders and helping you. Like, I think that's, giving you that a little bit of a break, but also giving them the freedom to, be able to go after this tasking. Kind of going on to the next idea with the idea of reinforcing consistency and discipline. That's a tough one because the daily habits, I know there's a whole cottage industry of people and influencers who try to help us all learn how to do daily habits and
drink enough water, get enough steps, get enough sleep.
Million different ways to do it, whether it's tracking through apps. There's a million different psychology hacks that we all try to do. But really they all kind of boil down to doing it, right? And just doing it consistently and building that into your daily routine and making it almost thoughtless in a lot of respects. Like drinking water, that was a big one for me. Getting into drinking a lot more water, working out, getting our steps. We've talked of a whole series on steps that we do and fitness. And now it's almost second nature to me now. It's like, I got to get up, I got to move around, got to get some steps, got to do this. And I rarely track it because I get buzzed when I cross my boundary, and that's typically sometime in the afternoon. And after that, I don't even think about it. But putting in these habits and doing this for younger kids, I think it's a big ask, right? Because it's hard enough for adults to put together some new type of, habit or responsibility, it's hard for us to even follow it ourselves.
Absolutely. I mean, habits is one of those things that introduces that regularity, right? So you know what's coming up, and our kids too, they know what to expect. They know what to do next. And our kids are getting into some habits. It's really difficult. Of course, they change all the time. They're always growing.
Oh, yeah.
But if we can give them some tools to help them, we've talked about physical checklists. We've talked a little bit about Kanban, routine, chart on the wall. There's also, digital options. If you have an older student, you could get into Google Calendars. There's some great videos on YouTube about using Google Calendars to help give them a list of the things that they need to do. But you can also use Trello. Some people use that. I love Trello. And if you could use that for them to move things from, things they need to do into the next thing. So
there's a whole myriad of to-do lists that are
right.
cloud-based, so you can update, tasking that might be needed, and that will then sync across devices. So if you're, older student who's a middle schooler or high schooler has a phone or a tablet or a Chromebook or something that they can then view what their tasking is, that will sync right to it. So there's a lot of different options to use.
There's tons. You use an app called Strides that you've liked for a long time that helps to
every day.
helps to check off things that you've done through the day. So whatever tool is appropriate for the kiddos that you have in mind, and whatever level is right. I think when they're really young, it's basically just about giving them an idea about what's coming through the day.
Yeah.
I remember we used to do this with our older daughter, before she'd go to bed at night. We would talk about the next day, and this is what was coming up. And it definitely put her mind at ease, because she didn't like the uncertainty of not knowing what was coming. So, for the youngest ones, I think most important is about setting that certainty. And then as they get older and you're starting to introduce other different means to help them, it's like, okay, here's how we set habits. And then the next piece is setting goals.
Yeah, the goals and the motivation, helping to drive the focus on finishing that task,
Right.
having that present in the front of your mind, all day, like for me, working out, like, when do I need to get my workout in? When do I need to do that? What type of writing activities can I do for that day, whether it's getting words or thinking about stories, whatever that might be. I got to make sure I do that every day, right? Having that in present mind is very challenging. And to think about, like, we have a friend's daughter who's like, I have to constantly remember to get her water bottle and her basketball when we're at basketball practice. Like, do you have all your things? I'm starting to have like this subroutine that runs even in my brain where I'm like, do you have everything? Are we ready to go? We get to the car. Did you remember everything that you brought? Do we have our jackets? Do we have everything? So, like, just having that in the present, in the front of our mind, it's a challenge even for the kids, and it's hard to think about that. But setting the motivations and setting those goals, you were able to do kind of a rewards-based system, with the checklist. Talk a little bit about like what you did there.
Yeah. So with the checklist for each of the different time blocks that we did, at the end of it, there was a reward for getting everything in that time block done.
Right.
So for example, if they were able to get everything done on the before homeschool checklist, then they were allowed to go play with toys or Legos until you were ready to start homeschool. But if they couldn't get that stuff done, they'd have to finish it and go directly into homeschool without any playtime in the morning. They really value their morning Lego time. That's very sacred to our kids. So that was a big motivator. In the afternoon, our kids are just like burgeoning into video games. We have like an old Wii that we pulled out, and Super Mario Brothers on it, and Wii Sports, and that's just like the most exciting thing. Getting a half hour to play together is like gold. They will clean the whole house to get a half hour to play together. And a half hour is about all they can take before it devolves into fighting and chaos anyways. So half hour is appropriate. But, using these goals, I didn't want to use like treat motivations. I didn't want to say like, okay, you can have candy, or like, I didn't want to do snacks or whatever. These are just different things. At the end of the night, they love listening to their Yodos to go to bed, and they love having them in the morning to listen to as they do their morning routine. And so, if they can get their whole evening routine done, then they get their Yodos. So that was to listen to at night. So that was kind of big for us. And with this, we kind of built in this, if there's any fighting about doing these tasks or bad behavior in that block of time, then that reward has been forfeited.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you take care of the couple things that we want you to do, but you hit your sister in the middle of it. and then you just get to go and play a half-hour video game. Like that
never happens.
Yeah, like that's not going to happen. So that was kind of the right level of rewards. This is all about what's most important to your kids, and we thought that, obviously we're not going to take away all of their playtime if they don't have great behavior or anything, but this was specifically a block of playtime that they like to do in the morning before homeschool. It's like, great, this will encourage them to get up and get their stuff done. And this morning at 7 a.m., our daughter got up, she came downstairs, she emptied the whole dishwasher because she knew that's what she needed to do. She took care of all that stuff. And then we heard her with her Yodo playing Lego before we got out of bed. So, she came down and got that done because she's like, oh, I want my Lego time. So it's been helpful. I think with this too, we talk about goals a little bit. These are tasks that, of course, I have their buy-in on, that we talked about. Hey, these are, you need to do your 20 minutes of reading, and do you agree, and all that stuff.
They're very accessible and easy to do.
Yeah,
we're not asking like a ton,
Yeah, this isn't hard stuff, and some of it's homeschool. You have to practice your handwriting. It's just the things that we have to do. But also, I think that this helps kids see that, wow, if I do everything I'm supposed to do, I'm going to get that reward, like their half-hour video game time, or I'm going to get through that book that I wanted to finish. Our daughter is just really focused on wanting to read enough books so she can read the first Harry Potter book by herself, because we read it to her, but she hasn't read it herself. And so, like, I think helping them to see beyond what you set for them, that they can set their own goals, and how could they achieve those? Whatever that goal may be. Our daughter has lots of dreams about sewing projects, and she's got different things for Girl Scouts, right? There's goal setting with this. How many cookies does she want to sell? Because she really wants that crossbody bag, and it was very important to her that she get the crossbody bag. So I think if we can set up these good aids and teach our kids how to use them, find the right one that works for our kids, most importantly, then we can help them to achieve their own goals using those kind of aids. Well,
especially when it becomes tasking that they really care about. Like, for example, like the one you brought up is, in the very near future, I envision our daughter, when she takes machine sewing next year at the parent partnership, towards the end of that year, she's going to want to start to make her own clothes. And she's going to need to be able to balance her own time and the length of, the effort that goes into that, and doing the research of what she wants to make, and the trial and error that will go along with that. As they get older, they begin to cultivate their own interests, their own skills, whatever those things might be. They're going to have to be able to manage their own time. And as kind of what you said, is be able to, once they have these tools in their belt, they'll be able to apply those to things they really care about, and it will extend and it will give them enough time to, do their homeschool and everything else. Last one that we're going to talk a little bit about is the structure and the stability. I like that idea of we talked a little bit at the beginning about giving them something to look forward to. But that stability aspect of it is I think a really big one. It helps to reduce a lot of stress. Like, Absolutely. They don't know what chore is coming up for the day, or
they don't even know what activities are coming up for the next day.
But I also like the idea of the structure and the stability of knowing what I need to do in order to get the thing I want. Like, kind of going back to the motivations, I can get that free time in the morning, but I know what I need to do. It's sitting right there for me. I do it. It's there every morning. If I can just get it done, I can then go do my thing that I want to do. That like discipline equals the freedom of, choice of what you want. If I have the discipline, I can get the things done I want. That gives me everything else that I need to do. And if I don't have that structure and that stability, or that the fact that I know this thing, that I can go do this thing to then get the thing I want, I think there's kind of, there's a kind of a hazy aspect to there. It's like, I don't even know what I need to do today in order to get the thing that I want. It's clear, it's right there in front of you. As long as you can finish it, you get what you want. And that's very similar to like our lives, right? I need to do the dishes. I need to do these things. I need to make dinner. I need to do all these things. I need to record a podcast. I need to do all these things. And then, then we get to go sit on the treadmill because we had pizza tonight, and we get to watch Hitman
really
we're gonna watch Hitman on Netflix.
We'll see how it goes.
Everyone in the comments, leave us an opinion on what you think about the movie.
Leave us a comment on what your favorite treadmill movie or show is, because we're always looking. But this one I think is important. The stress part of it's important.
I do. I agree.
One of the things that we didn't realize when we first had kids, I don't know that I just didn't realize this. Children have their own plans. if you asked our 5-year-old today, what are you going to do tomorrow? I guarantee you she has plans because they're in the middle of playing a game or they're building something with their Lego or there's something they were looking forward to. And they have plans about what they want to do. So not knowing what's coming for them, they can't see those plans through. At least as adults, most of the time, barring unforeseen circumstances, we usually have control over what our day is going to be like. Okay, I know I got to go to work, but I also want to do these things. I want to go for a walk later and going to work on this, and I want to do a puzzle, whatever it is I want to do. I can plan my day. I know what's coming. For kids, I think it's important that we not take that away from them because just because our daughter is 5, not every day, but a lot of days, she has plans. Our girls have cooked up what they want to do tomorrow. I guarantee you already they know that they really want to finish playing dolls tomorrow because they've set up this whole thing today. And they were really hoping that we would watch Brave tomorrow night. And, whatever. I mean, they know all the things that they would really, really like to do. I think if we can give them some sort of aids to help them to know what's on the docket for tomorrow. Maybe these are the checklist things. And maybe you even have a couple of blanks on there where you write in what the next day is going to be. Oh, we have a play date with a friend tomorrow or whatever, because then they can see, hey, this is what we have to do. And these are the things that are coming up. It helps orient them because I think sometimes one of the worst things, I don't know where I read this or heard this, but a kid's playing and you say, okay, it's time to go. And they get super upset. Yeah. Where, giving them, hey, we're going to be going in 10 minutes. Hey, we're going to be going in 5 minutes because you wouldn't want to be pulled right out of what you were doing. No, right. And I think the same thing's true of plans. Yeah. They've made a plan for tomorrow and they wake up in the morning and we're like, forget your plans. We're doing this. And they're upset. They're justifiably upset.
And we've seen this with our oldest when she doesn't get enough time to listen to her audiobooks because that's kind of her thing. Yeah. And it affects her. Like she'll even say, oh, I just want to listen to my stuff. I don't want to be bothered. I just want to listen to my book. Can I get back to this book that I was listening to that I really liked? Or can I just finish that Lego project that I was trying to do? Like if I just need a break and okay, I understand. And if your day is, if they don't know what's coming, how are they going to be able to fit the things into their day that they enjoy and want? Because that's what we want them to end up becoming. We want them to be able to fill their own days, do their homeschool, do their work, do their activities, their extracurriculars, help out around the house, be members of the family, but also have their own interests and their own...
Plenty of time to pursue that stuff. And this is a great opportunity, too, to be able to have that discussion and for it to be a dialogue. Well, tomorrow we're going to go and I thought we'd go to the park. And our daughter's like, well, actually, I was really hoping we could do this Lego thing. And so you and I will talk. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll take the little one to the park. Dad can stay home with you and he'll get his workout in. We can kind of plan what our day is going to be like. Not every day is like that, of course. But I think the more that we can give them information and expectation, it helps reduce their stress, helps us all to be happier, and helps the day to flow smoother. When we talk with them about what's coming up and what we need to do, and we do a good job of doing that the night before, man, the day goes easier. And the days when we don't, when it's all just when they feel like we have a plan, roughly in my head, kind of, but when they feel like we're flying by the seat of our pants, man, their behavior's all over the place. They're cranky. So this is about instilling personal responsibility in them, but also, kind of helping them to cope with the day and the things that we need them to do and they need to do for their education and whatnot. So,
well, I hope you guys have enjoyed part 2 of our personal responsibilities. If you have a chance, head down into the comments or out onto the Facebook group. Go ahead and put down what you guys do and what you guys use and what challenges and failures. I mean, well, we're still working on our checklist. They bombed the first few times, and the Kanban board hasn't been used since the parent partnership stopped. And I can guarantee you, things are in flux.
We have not. I think this is very important.
We haven't found the perfect way.
We have not found the right thing, and as they change and grow, and our needs change, it changes as well. So it's not going to be a static thing. But we don't have the magic cure. These are some things we've tried with our kids, and they work for a spell, and then they don't, and we pivot,
change, and
we change it up, and we are still learning, and it's still evolving for us. But we would love to hear what you do with your families and what successes you found. Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time.
Happy homeschooling!